History often presents us with stark choices, or so we think. Democracy versus tyranny, freedom versus oppression. But what happens when the lines blur, when the very ideologies claiming to champion the people become the instruments of their subjugation? This is the unsettling story of fascism and communism. Two movements, born from revolution, promising utopia, yet descending into remarkably similar nightmares. To understand this paradox, we must journey back to their origins, dissect their seductive doctrines, and confront the chilling truth. The road to hell is often paved with good intentions. Fascism, with its roots in early 20th century Italy, found its voice in Benito Mussolini's fiery pronouncements. Mussolini, a former socialist turned nationalist, capitalized on the chaos and disillusionment that followed World War I. Italy, feeling betrayed by the Treaty of Versailles, was ripe for a new direction. His 1919 manifesto, fueled by nationalist fervor and resentment over Italy's perceived weakness, called for a powerful state, a glorification of war, and the revival of the Roman Empire's grandeur. Mussolini's vision was one of unity through strength, where the state was supreme, and the submission of the individual to the collective will. The Black Shirts, Mussolini's paramilitary force, enforced this ideology with brutal efficiency, silencing opposition and spreading fear. Communism, emerging from the crucible of the Russian Revolution, offered a starkly different vision. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' Communist Manifesto, published in 1848, diagnosed history as a struggle between the ruling class and the oppressed proletariat. The Russian Revolution of 1917 brought these ideas to life, toppling the Tsarist regime. Their solution? A violent overthrow of the capitalist order, led by the Bolsheviks under Lenin's leadership. The promise was a utopia where class distinctions would vanish and everyone would share in the wealth, leading to a classless society where the means of production would be owned by the people. The early Soviet Union saw massive efforts to collectivize agriculture and industry, aiming to eliminate private ownership. On the surface, two radically different paths. Fascism and communism seemed to be polar opposites, one advocating for extreme nationalism and the other for international proletarian solidarity. Yet both promised a radical restructuring of society, a break from the old order. Both movements were driven by charismatic leaders who inspired fervent loyalty and mobilized the masses, both fueled by a potent mix of idealism and anger. The promises of a new dawn, a better future, resonated deeply with populations weary of war and economic hardship, and both, tragically, would betray their promises. The utopian visions gave way to authoritarian regimes where dissent was crushed, and the state wielded absolute power. The dreams of a better world turned into nightmares of oppression and control. For the fascist, the nation was a living organism, demanding absolute loyalty and obedience. Individual rights were secondary to the needs of the state, as personified by an all-powerful leader. Mussolini, with his theatrical pronouncements and cult of personality, became the embodiment of this principle. He promised to restore Italy to its former glory, to forge a new Roman Empire through military might and national unity. This vision resonated with a population disillusioned by economic hardship and political instability. But this unity came at a steep price: the suppression of dissent, the persecution of minorities, and the relentless march of a militarized state. Section 4. Workers of the World Unite, Communism's Utopian Dream. Communism, in its purest form, painted a seductive picture of equality and shared prosperity. It envisioned a world where every individual, regardless of their background, would have equal access to resources and opportunities. This ideology promised a society where the fruits of labor were shared by all, eliminating the vast disparities between the rich and the poor. The workers, united in their struggle against capitalist exploitation, would rise up, seize the means of production, and create a society free from poverty, oppression, and the tyranny of private property. This revolutionary movement aimed to dismantle the existing power structures and replace them with a system where the working class held the reins of power. The state, no longer needed to enforce the will of the ruling class, would simply wither away. In its place, a new form of governance would emerge, one that was truly representative of the people's will. This stateless society would be characterized by communal decision-making and collective ownership. This vision, however flawed in its execution, resonated with millions yearning for a more just and equitable world. The promise of a society where everyone had a voice and a stake in the collective well-being was a powerful motivator for many. From the factories of Europe to the rice paddies of Asia, the siren song of communism promised liberation from the shackles of oppression. It offered hope to those who had been marginalized and oppressed, suggesting that a better world was not only possible but within reach. Section 5. A Tale of Two Struggles. Nationalism versus class warfare. At the heart of their ideological divide lay two contrasting narratives. Fascism, fueled by a potent cocktail of nationalism and xenophobia, sought to unite the nation against perceived enemies both internal and external. Jews, communists, intellectuals, anyone deemed a threat to the national unity became targets of persecution. Communism, on the other hand, envisioned a world without borders, where the proletariat of all nations would unite against their common enemy, the capitalist class. Nationalism, in the Marxist view, was merely a tool used by the ruling class to divide and conquer the working class. Section 6. The Iron Fist, when utopia demands conformity. Here, the paths of fascism and communism converge once more, revealing a chilling truth. The pursuit of utopia often leads to tyranny. Both ideologies in practice demanded absolute conformity. Dissent was not merely discouraged, it was ruthlessly crushed. Secret police forces, mass surveillance, gulags, and concentration camps became the tools of choice for regimes seeking to maintain control and eliminate opposition. The individual, once hailed as the beneficiary of this new order, was reduced to a cog in a vast, impersonal machine. Section 7. Echoes of Tyranny, Lessons for a Free World. In this section we delve into the dark chapters of history to uncover the vital lessons that can guide us towards a more just and free society. The legacy of fascism and communism serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of freedom. These regimes, built on the foundations of fear and oppression, show us how easily liberty can be lost. The seductive allure of absolute solutions, often presented by charismatic leaders, can be dangerously appealing. They promise quick fixes to complex problems, the promise of a perfect society achieved through force and coercion. But history has shown us that such promises are illusions that lead to suffering and loss of freedom. This is a trap that humanity has fallen into time and time again. The cost of these utopian dreams is often paid in blood and tears. The true lesson, etched in the blood and tears of millions, is the importance of vigilance. We must remember the past to protect our future. It is the importance of safeguarding individual rights, of ensuring that every voice is heard and respected. Embracing pluralism and dissent is essential, as they are the lifeblood of a healthy society. Diversity of thought and opinion strengthens our collective resilience. For when we silence opposing voices, we undermine the very foundation of freedom. When we surrender our critical thinking to the dictates of dogma, we lose our ability to question and to grow. We pave the way for tyranny, regardless of its ideological mask. Tyranny can come in many forms, but its essence is always the same: the suppression of freedom. The fight for freedom is an eternal one, demanding constant vigilance, critical thinking, and an unwavering commitment to the principles of liberty and justice for all. It is a struggle that each generation must take up anew. Only through our collective efforts can we ensure that the lessons of the past are not forgotten, and that the ideals of freedom and justice continue to guide us towards a brighter future.